Hello peeps! What I thought I'd do today is give you a brief history of myself, and even though I am at a small farm now, I was brought up in the opposite, in large farms with my grandparents. One had around 5,000 sheep and the other one had about 2,000 sheep, and then my dad had around about 700 or 800, and we were constantly gathering and shearing when I was in school as a young lad. Just to gather the one lot took 2 weeks constantly on the one farm, on my dad's brother's farms. And on this farm here, my dad used to take tack. The farm was the same size, but we used to take tack, which was rent ground in different areas, and then bring the sheep home to lamb. It was a different system then, before 2000. It was on a headage based payment. So my father was, I think, around £15,000 then we used to get on a headage based payment. So it didn't make a lot of money though, because most of it was spent on paying for the rent of the ground and everything like that. That's how farming has always been. Anyway, around the year 2000, there was this cap change, and they decided to change everything onto a land-based system. And if you had historic land, which was your own, you got paid on it. But if you didn't, you had to buy entitlements for it and everything, which you couldn't claim on the ground. And overnight, my dad went from 15,000 income to £5,000 a year. And I was in my early teens then, I think. And at the same time, Thatcher's interest rates were about 17%. So the bank tried to sell him straight up, no messing. So that was Barclays Bank. And I'll say to anybody now who's in hock to the bank, do not trust them, because they went savage within 2 weeks. Anyway, as a young lad then, I was working away from home as well then, in a factory in Raider. And I just moved on to the timber. So I'd worked making files in a factory in Raider for a good few years. I actually didn't mind the job. Cash in hand then. And you had a little brown paper slip and you'd have your money and you'd go out and have a bit of fun at the weekend. But then I had to basically get a mortgage then, really quick, at a young age, to save the farm. And we, after trying everywhere, we did manage to get another place. But it wasn't easy, I tell you, because I didn't have any accounts or anything then, being so young. So from that moment on, I basically had to, get my farm out of debt. And I don't blame my dad, because it was hard going farming back then as it is now, to be quite honest. You didn't have a lot. You basically lived from hand to mouth, to be honest with you, like we do now. So anyway, 2000 came along and I told you this happened. Lots of other farms, about good 80-90% of the farms, did all right about it. So they cut their stock due to the new EU laws that happened at that time. And there was about, a good 50% of stock was cut on the hill, because the conservationists wanted it all to happen. And lots of farms made huge amounts of money, bigger farms, and my relatives included. But there we were, shafted like we were, lots of smaller farms are going to be now. So to get more, you had to buy the entitlements, which were through the roof at the time. To buy the entitlements was mental money. So we did eventually manage to get to some entitlements to get a little bit more money, but when you're skint and the bank is pushing you and you're living on your overdraft constantly. I still live on my overdraft now to this day, since then, but I paid back everything and I bought the farm. And I will never forget going to get the deeds off the bank, because they were not willing to give them me. But what I was trying to say though is the history of everything. So lots of people look at small farmers as if they're, especially lots of big farmers, as if they're not worthy of anything, forgetting that lots of the people who have them farms and work them are doing other jobs as well. So obviously I can't now because of my eyesight problem, because of insurance things, and it's very hard indeed. But lots of smaller farms still get looked down on by larger farms, which I don't like, because lots of larger farms actually don't do most of the work. They get contractors in, whereas on a smaller farm you do it all yourself. So anyway, from then on, lots of large farms did very well out of it up until present day, and the small farmer was shafted again. So up to this present day now, small farmers have had a hard time. Next year now, when this new scheme comes in, they'll be shafted again in favour of other bigger farms, because they want bigger farms. And I just wanted to say, people think when I do my videos, I don't understand it all. I've seen it all from both sides, from gathering thousands of sheep up until I was in my 18, 20, all the time, constantly. My other grandfather had 2,000 sheep. Sadly, he's passed away now. And it was a constant all the time. Every time you were dropped off from school or had a day off, or if you were ever in school, you were helping one or the other to gather sheep, take them off to tack, mark sheep, dip sheep, shear sheep. And I used to love it, to be honest. And around that time my dad fell out with his brother. So the other farm that I used to go to with a large amount of sheep, where we just stopped going there really. And my other grandfather passed away then, and his son then, who took the farm over, he passed away a few years later from cancer. So that's what was my past, was going from working constantly on really massive farms, sheep farms, to cutting back to like I am now. And like I said, in my 30s then, while I was working on the timber driving machinery, that was my career really. I had this eyesight problem found, and it was a sort of devastating for me really. Had a bit of a breakdown there one year due to it all, because I was going blind, or still going blind. And there you are. I'll tell you one thing, once you've realised about your health, like I did at that time, you realise money isn't anything really. From now on, from when I first found out about my eyesight, I don't look at money, not at all really. I just look at the next day, live in the moment. It's nice to have it, but people who have it aren't happy, as I've seen. I'm as happy as I've ever been at the moment. And some people wonder why, but I don't know. I don't hate anybody. I enjoy my life. I love my little farm. I don't want to get a bigger farm. I just love my farm. And why would I want to destroy the nature that I love? It's weird. I feel planted in this place, and like I tell you, I only go in the smallest scheme possible because I don't want them interfering in my farm. So there we are. So that's what I think. Now, lots of people talk about how agriculture has destroyed the hills over the last 20 years. And from my own personal experience, the people in charge of agriculture over the last 20 years, since 2000 anyway, were the conservationists. And removing the sheep off the hills made everything overgrow. Then that caught fire and that burns. Then they want to stop fire, and then it all gathers up and burns worse. So they removed the very thing that was keeping the countryside clear, which was sheep. And they still want to remove more. It's a load of educated people who haven't really listened from the past, I don't think. So I thought I'd give you a brief history of myself. So I don't care what anybody does. I don't like to rely on anybody. It'd be nice to have a tidy wage every year and know what's coming. Because like I said, I can't work like I used to, and that's the end of it. If people don't know, I've got an eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which gives you tunnel vision, and I'm blind when it goes slightly dusk and totally blind when it goes dark. I'll walk into a room. So I do stuff at home, but it's, I've got to be honest, it takes me twice as long as a normal person would. But you got to keep going, haven't you? You've got to keep going. They told me I'd be blind by the time I was 30. So I'm 52 now, and I'm still going some shape. So never give in, and don't listen to the experts all the time, because they know next to fuck all in the end of the day, especially if you're got a bit of heart about you. So there we are, there's my Gaz's brief history. Comment, rate and subscribe, because I love seeing your comments. All the best, Gaz.